Welcome to episode number 2 of XP42, and today we are talking to Husain Al-Badry. I hope I pronounced that right.
You did.
I do actually have a lot of Arab named friends.
Okay. So do you know how to actually pronounce my first name?
Hussein?
Because it's not Husain.
No, it can't be.
Hassan? Yeah. There's a letter that doesn't exist in the English language. No, see, he says there's a different letter in Arabic.
How do you? Hussein. Hussein.
Hussein.
That's right. That's right. There you go. You got a schooling in how you pronounce Hussein's name when you come to this office. So, Husain is actually.
It's okay. You can just call me Husain.
I think when you go back to calling yourself, needs focus. But is the general manager of innovation and customer experience.
Yep.
At Datacom, that's the day job. But here to find out really, how did you get to this point? Like, I mean, it's clearly been, there's some sort of journey that you have. There's no innovation school, is there? You don't go to school.
It's definitely not innovation school. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I kind of ask myself, I'm like, how am I in this? How am I in this role?
It seems to be a trend among innovation folk that they come from different. What was your pathway to? And I mean, it's an impressive title, General Manager of Innovation.
Yeah, I mean, my pathway hasn't actually been as diverse in terms of different companies or different industries as such. Actually, industries I could argue it has, but I've been at Datacom since I actually graduated. So I joined Datacom as a fresh graduate. Software developer.
So you're like a company man, isn't it? Like
I am a company man.
Right.
I am a bit
but
of
you've
a
been here,
man.
so.
But I've never held a role at Datacom for longer than 3 years.
Right.
Yeah. So I've always had a different thing to do.
Right.
So they haven't really given me a reason to leave.
And where did you come from? I mean, are you like first generation New Zealander? Or?
I'm not. So I came from Iraq originally. We left Iraq after the first Gulf War in 1990, so that was an interesting time.
Right. So was your obviously your parents at that stage?
My parents, yeah. So I'm son of immigrant parents, both professional migrants. So we had a big professional population in Iraq that after the Gulf War just went, got out of the country, spread all over the world, and we ended up here in New Zealand.
Right. What was that like? How old were you when you came here?
I was 13 years old.
Right. Yeah. And so that's reasonably an age to be annoyed at.
Yeah.
Uprooting a country. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I've not settled because we left Iraq when I was 9 years old, and then we went to Jordan for a period of time.
Oh, right.
And it was kind of like in Iraq, you go through, you're born, you've got a house, everything is hunky-dory, and then war.
Yeah.
And then you leave, and then you start from zero in Jordan. And then we left and we came to New Zealand, and we started from zero in New Zealand as well.
Right.
So you had a lot of experience starting from nothing.
Starting from nothing, definitely, yeah. And then focusing on the important things in life, like health and family.
Right. But do you reckon, obviously when you're starting up from scratch, there's this, you can't actually have any fear. Like you almost have to have a lack of fear in your, and you're just like, oh, this just needs to be done. How much of that translates into what you do on a regular? I mean,
it does big time. So getting stuff done and just kind of pragmatically taking something that's really ambiguous and just kind of going, okay, I've got to work with what I've got.
Right.
I think that's definitely come through that kind of background of not being settled anywhere, just kind of having to continuously make new friends, reestablish what life looks like, get into a new mode of operation. That was my life growing up. And I think that's translated a little bit into what I do over here as well.
Right. So you obviously go to school, graduate, and then Datacom. Was technology always your thing? Is it?
No. So I did have. I had a bit of a creative bend when I was younger.
That seems to be a trend.
Yeah, but my parents were both into academia, so. creativity wasn't.
So what kind of creativity?
Wasn't the big thing.
What kind of creativity?
Music. I used to play a bit of music when I was in the Middle East, but but then computers came, and then that was that.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, music. Okay.
But yeah, computers were, kind of the first part of my life was, hobbies were really music and a little bit of sport, and then music kind of phased out and computers phased in.
Right.
You did a lot of tinkering with computers and just playing around with them?
Yes. Yeah. So my first computer was a 386, and I remember when we first got it, because we actually bought it secondhand because we were starting fresh in Jordan.
Right.
So we bought it secondhand, got it home, and that first night that we got it home, I was so excited I couldn't sleep.
Right.
I spent all night trying. The person who sold it to us said there is a game on the computer.
Right.
So I spent all night trying to find the game on the computer.
Right.
So I managed to learn all the DOS commands.
But just to find
navigate my way up and down until I found Wolf 3D.
Right. Oh, was that? Right.
Wolfenstein, yeah.
Right.
Actually, a good question there though is, did you use the instructions?
What instructions? No, there was no instructions. No, there were no instructions. No, we got a second-hand computer. I just turned it on and it landed me in this black DOS window.
Right.
And I just had to, I think somebody said to me, you can use CD. Like, I think I had one command that was given to me, and then I got to figuring out all the other commands.
Yeah. Wow.
And by the way, English was not my language at all at the time, so I didn't know any English either.
Right.
Wow.
So was all your study and stuff prior to, like
prior to coming to New Zealand
was Arabic?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I came here without
in
much
Iraq,
English at all.
In Iraq had English schools and stuff back in
They
that
did,
day, right?
yeah. But I think because I left Iraq when I was 9 years old, so I was quite young.
Right.
And then in Jordan, I actually attended public schooling over there.
Right.
And public schooling, they
That's
teach
all
you the
right.
ABCs
Right.
and your months and stuff like that, but
Right.
you can't really have a conversation
Right.
in English.
So then, wasn't that transition really hard coming to New Zealand?
Yeah.
Because then you had to learn the language as a 13-year-old.
Yeah,
Right.
which is why I have a messed up accent, because I had to learn a whole bunch of stuff from TV.
Right. It is the best
as
way
well
to
as,
yeah.
yeah, it is.
It is, yeah.
Seinfeld, The Simpsons, that was my that was my source of.
But so obviously, what was it like going to school then, here?
Initially quite tough, because I actually was, even though I didn't used to study very hard, I was actually quite a good achiever at school.
Right.
In the Middle East, both in Iraq and Jordan. And then when I came here, because the language changed, suddenly my grades just went.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was a big, a
Right.
big shock. But then I kind of adjusted. And
So when you joined Datacom, how big was it back then? Like,
I think we were a $300 million company.
Right. So it was pretty. And how long? When was this?
This was almost 14 years ago.
Right.
So we're now a $1.4 billion
Right.
company. So I've seen it go through quite a few growth spurts.
And was there, what was innovation like back then, and what attracted you to it?
I think it was, so innovation was, for me, it was more about a technology career when I joined Datacom. So that's what Datacom was really well known for. At the time, the software part of Datacom was just at its infancy. So I was quite lucky in that, some of the early big projects that Datacom had in the software space, I was involved in. But really the thing that attracted me to Datacom is the variety of things that we do. So you get to work with customers in a variety of industries. I remember when I first came, I had a big project with Southern Cross, and then I moved on to doing some work with ASB Bank, and then I did Auckland Council for a bit of time. We have a big local government product in regional councils that I was basically the solution architect on from inception, which was quite cool.
Right.
Did some work with Air New Zealand. So there's been like a good variety of stuff that's come my way. And then the thing that's really retained me when I kind of got the schooling and the delivery side of things here at Datacom, because there's a few kind of big projects that you kind of earn your stripes on. And that's really the thing that I'm most proud of, is actually I've been through the delivery. I know what it's like in the trenches. I know what it takes to actually deliver good working programs of work. And then I was looking out into what else we can do, and it was quite clear by about, I think 2011 or something like that, with the rise of cloud and all these things, that Datacom's brand was actually in big trouble. And so that's when we had a bit of a movement to kind of try and rescue the brand, reinvigorate what we do over here, reimagine ourselves and how we do things as an organization, rediscover who we are in a way, and reinvigorate the culture around the organization as well. So I was involved in the first hackathon that we organized within Datacom back in 2012. That was called MetroComp, because it was when Windows 8 was coming out.
Right, okay.
And they had the whole Metro
Metro
interface.
UI, yes, that's right, I remember that. Metro UI.
So, yeah, so we just wanted to get something going, so we kind of focused it on that. We had about 40 people turn up from Auckland.
Right.
And then everybody who came in, all the execs who came in, were just like, "Oh my God, what's going on here?" Like it can be quite contagious, that whole environment where everybody's excited, everybody's working on a solution. It's all happening on the weekend, and that's become an institution within Datacom. And I think that was one of the mechanisms that drove a lot of culture change for us as an organization.
But were there any successful products that came out of those hackathons?
There were.
Because one of the things that, I know about hackathons and having been involved in and run them, is that they're really fun for the day, but actually productifying it and actually putting it out in the market, or sort of whatever you build from it. So how did you jump that shark of hack to actual product?
So there was an element of luck in the first one, in MetroComp, because it was new technology. We actually had one of our customers, Sealord at the time. They came and said, hey, just before the hackathon, they're like, hey, you guys are developing something on Windows 8. They were doing a big CRM project with them, field force kind of mobility. So then we ended up developing a Windows 8 app that plugged into CRM, that all their sales reps were taking out. So rather than them going out with a pen and paper and doing stuff within the supermarkets, they can actually go out with a tablet. They can take photos of stock arrangements and enter out of stock requests and all that kind of stuff.
So they built that during the hackathon?
No, that was an outcome. So after the hackathon, we kind of built out a product, and we got the IP out of that product, which we managed to resell a few times. So that was a good success. But it was the first big Windows 8, one of the first Windows 8 stories around the world. So then Microsoft featured it in their conference in the States. Forbes magazine had an article about it in the States. So it was, that was quite lucky, to be honest, for the first hackathon. But it did become very clear to us that the measure of success is to actually try and mobilize some of the ideas out the back of the hackathon. And we've done that to some success, but
But how, and you speak about luck, right? Like, how much does luck play in innovation? What is the role of luck innovation?
I think it's got a big role to play.
Right. How much, say, percentage-wise? How much do you reckon?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I don't know. It'll be at least 30%.
That's quite high, really. If you
at least 30%.
I agree with you. I mean,
serendipity is definitely.
Sometimes it's just timing and luck, isn't it? I mean, we've experienced it.
Yes.
Sometimes it's just good. I mean, sometimes a good idea, you can just ram it down people's heads and it still doesn't.
Yep.
You just need the right ingredients, right?
Yep.
That's a good point earlier, though, is that you just upskilled your whole organisation with 40 odd people, however many people there, and this new technology, and suddenly you have the capability to deliver with that. And I think we've seen that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you an example. We had so a couple of years ago we started looking at augmented reality and virtual reality, and we had all these. We kicked off these multiple streams with different customers just to do a bit of experimentation.
Was it tied to a hardware or was it?
It was tied to the Microsoft HoloLens at the
yeah.
time.
So yeah, I remember 2 years ago everyone had a
Everybody
HoloLens.
had a HoloLens.
Yeah. Were you one of those? Okay, go.
I was actually extremely skeptical of the HoloLens, but then we kind of went, okay, let's try some stuff out, and we kicked off about 4 different experiments with different local customers here, and they were fine. But then we were at a conference. We had a little stand at a conference, and I took the HoloLens there because it was like the cool thing to show everybody, and I met somebody who knew the director of immersive technology at Pearson in the UK, who used to live in New Zealand, and apparently they were doing these high school education apps, and they wanted to trial them somewhere, and so she just said, "Are you guys interested in helping trial?" I'm like, "Yeah, we can have a chat about it." But it was one of those, like complete luck, completely remote, and then next minute, we've got a program of work with a large global education provider. We've helped them build a content management platform for their apps, and they're deploying mixed reality apps and virtual reality apps on the Microsoft platform for medical simulation in universities in the States and in the UK, all over Europe, and that was purely luck, like being there, sure, right place, right time.
Right. But that brings the question about I mean, you effectively used the HoloLens in like innovation theater in a lot of ways. Like, oh, this is kind of cool, but then offshoot of that. So how and companies do this all the time, is where you just build the innovation for the novelty of it, right? Yeah. How big of a role do you think, as someone whose day job is innovation, how much of that theater is really important in getting the work in?
It's hugely important because it just opens up people's minds. Because I truly believe, like, the day we live in today, it's because everybody's got access to devices everywhere. People need to experience things. So you can't just kind of describe something to somebody or draw a diagram of a solution and try to sell them something. They've actually got to experience it. And so a lot of the time, to get them as close to the experience as possible, you've got to create a bit of theater. You've got to prototype something. You've got to throw some stuff together that looks, that gets the idea across, so that you can open up people's imagination and get them to actually invest time and effort and money and resources into doing something.
Actually, it's the best explanation of innovation theater.
I came up with it on the spot.
Because I've generally been the kind of guy, I was like, oh, this is not delivering any value. Why are we doing this just to look cool? But it actually makes sense. You have to open up people's minds to these things.
There's a certain kind of scale where you go between annoying and opening up imagination, right? Like some people kind of take the smallest thing and then they kind of make it out to be this massive thing. But to me, it's actually how do you build enough so that you can open up people's imagination, so that you can craft some real innovation.
Your job, effectively, in a lot of ways, is to go into other companies and tell them, some of the way you're doing these things is rubbish, I've got a better way, right? It's not the easiest conversation to have. So what's your, and there are other innovators out there, obviously sitting going, man, this is so hard. And it is hard, of course it is hard. What's your method? What's the Husain Al-Badry method of getting, evangelizing what you do? Do you have a shortcut? Do you have like a method?
We have a method to, to convey to the world, to go, this is a different way of doing it. I've never gone into a place and completely gone, this is rubbish, what are you guys talking about? Because people usually have the best intent when they're going about doing something, right? So you don't want to completely kind of destroy it. But a lot of the time it's just about asking the probing questions to figure out if somebody has actually thought about the end user, the customer, and what would they have to say, what would they do, because there is a lot of the relationships that we sometimes get into are very technology oriented, and so technology people tend to like doing technology innovation for the sake of using cool technology. So it's just asking the right questions. The methodology that we've kind of crafted up, we believe, is so we went through this period over the last 4 or 5 years where we've created our own design capability in house, created our own kind of strategy capability in house. We go out to customers and we go, hey, look, we've got a new design capability. Hey, look, we've got a strategy capability. But Datacom isn't really associated with design and strategy, so people just kind of go, well, that's cool, but I'll just go to the specialist design shop or the specialist strategy shop. The realization I think we've had over the last couple of years is that's actually not why we're different. Our differentiation is that we know how to execute and get to execution really well, and that doing ability is the thing that actually makes us quite different. So rather than trying to say, oh, we're like a PwC or we're like a XYZ agency, we kind of go, cool, if you want to do strategy and take 3 months out to do your strategy, that's fill your boots. We've got an alternative approach to doing that, where we kind of get you directionally correct, not 100%, but we help you execute, get some stuff rolled out, and then iterate on top of it. And I think that mindset has been, we're kind of, that's worked with customers, so we've landed it with a lot of different organizations, but internally within Datacom, we're slowly kind of turning people to go and realize, actually we don't need to be the flashy agency. We can actually be the bank, because the bank can be playful deliberately, and that's really the positioning. So yeah, so that's kind of been the method or the way that we've approached it. We've tackled it. It's not to go and say, we're an equivalent of this or an equivalent of that. Actually, there is a bit of differentiation, a little bit of quirkiness within Datacom's technology approach. We've kind of embraced that and celebrated that.
But it is the majority of the work, isn't it? I mean, implementation and doing the work is 80% of getting something done. So
yes. We use the Mike Tyson quote. We say, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Datacom and saying
so execution is everything.
It is true. So what are the challenges currently in 2018, almost going into 2019, of execution of these? Innovation is rife. Everyone's trying to do so many things in a very short amount of time. So what are you finding personally, some of the challenges for implementation of innovation? And even experiments, not just like full-on innovation. Like, how are you even running tests and stuff? Like, what are the challenges? What's holding you back?
Commitment is definitely commitment from a customer, because a lot of the time we do stuff jointly with different organizations. A lot of organizations talk about wanting to be more innovative. Who actually commits some dollars to it? Who actually commits dollars to experimenting? That's a slightly different story, right? So,
do they know how much it costs before they begin that conversation?
No, nobody knows.
Right.
And that's like, the thing is that you try to explain as best as you can that, when you're going into an ideation workshop, when you're doing a prototyping exercise, that's just the tip of the iceberg, right? What you're actually going to be, what you're going to be hoping to do at the back of that is some bigger, deeper stuff that's going to have a real impact on your business. Getting people to understand that is quite hard. And I think that's actually a challenge that everybody in an innovation role will have, is that, people just kind of come to you and want to sprinkle the innovation magic on top of their thing, whether it's a product or a service in utilities or whatever it might be. People just, at the end of the day, people don't actually want to change what their business model is. They just want to sprinkle a little bit of innovation dust on top of it. And I think that's the biggest challenge is finding commitment from organizations to go, actually, this isn't just about a veneer. It's actually, how do we actually invest in reimagining a lot of things?
How do you determine what is sort of, because there's so much stuff out there these days, and it's there's a whole bunch of big things. A lot of those kind of fizzle out into nothing. But how do you determine what might be hype at the time, as opposed to something that really does have business value?
That's a good question. Talking to people a lot. Yeah. So we actually one thing that we do quite well is we, whenever we believe there might be an area of relevance, we kind of take it away. We prototype a bit of a pitch on top of it. Yep. Then we go out with customers and we test that pitch and we go, is this relevant? Is this relevant? Is this relevant? Yes, cool. Next stage is, would you commit any money to it? See who's actually going to throw some money at it. And sometimes we kind of go, we put stuff on the shelf and go, actually relevant, not a lot of money is being spent on it, possibly too early, let's put it away and let's grab it later. Some stuff you kind of land and just go, let's hit it hard.
Is there anything that you think could be coming up? What would you say is the sort of next big, from your perspective?
Man, there's so much stuff going on, eh? Like,
what are you putting your bet on, though?
It is a very hard question, right? Because I wouldn't put anything on I wouldn't say this is the technology that is gonna change everything as we know it. Maybe because I've seen a lot of the hype kind of come and go.
Bitcoin AI.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
VR, AR. Yeah.
I think it's the way. It is ultimately the way. The way all these things end up converging into certain, use cases or evolutions of the way we live our lives today. Even EVs to some degree, 1 year ago, it's like, the car industry is going to change, and
hey, look at the e-scooters.
Yeah.
Oh, that's close. That's a close.
I actually bought myself an e-scooter.
Same here. I have my own one.
Did you get the special from the new store?
I bought I got the Mercury one.
Okay.
Yeah. I got this for $250 off for Mercury. I think that was fabulous.
Who would have guessed that actually EVs would?
But I saw on LinkedIn yesterday, and one of those LinkedIn things. Amazon promised flying drones delivery in 5 years. 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know, drone delivery didn't happen. And that's amazing, because even, I'm not saying that they get it wrong, but the sheer your foresight is just, this time scale is a bit skewed, isn't it?
Yeah. And it will take a bit of time, right? Like my kids right now, so I've got a 9-year-old, for example.
And Husain just recently had a kid as well, as of last week. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's kind of cool.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Like you can see by his sleepless eyes.
That's right. That's right.
Third time around.
My mind is everywhere right now. But my 9-year-old, for example, she's got no understanding of live TV really. Like I had a friend come over and she said something about she watched the All Blacks game with me, and he goes, "Oh, was that, did your dad record it or was it live?" She's like, "What?"
Do you have an Echo in your house?
I used to have a Google Home.
Right.
And then it started singing by itself in the middle of the night.
No, how?
And my wife was like,
"Here
you go."
What do you mean singing? It just switched on. Right?
It just started singing. I don't know if you've got a Google Home, just say, "Okay, Google, sing me a song," and Google will start singing, and she was just singing. It's Google's voice, the assistant. It was singing.
Are you serious?
And my wife got up at like 2 a.m. and she's like,
"Are you sure it's not your 9-year-old playing pranks?" Right.
And
So,
it just, yeah.
what about, you say of the like what, e-scooters, right? Like, did you going, man, I should have done this? Like Lime outside, right?
Ideas that I should have done this.
Yeah, because I mean, this obviously I don't know the Lime guys, and hopefully we'll get them on this show. But surely they just sat there and went, why don't I bring Lime scooters? You know, I'll get the money, get the Lime scooters, put it out on the market. Is there anything like that that you think of that you could have done?
Yep. So there are some. I don't think about a lot of the, like, the sharing economy stuff has kind of got to a point where it's like, all right, just another sharing economy service.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's probably a bunch of stuff that I kind of go, actually, it would have been good if I did. I think I had a really big ambition to do like an end-to-end innovation lifecycle platform at some point, but it's. My ambitions are very dorky and very related.
Very dorky. They're all dorky, but it is tech. But
I just yeah. There are some times where you kind of go, oh man, I should do something, and then you kind of go, ah.
What is that? What is it? Is it the corporate job? Is it the fact that I'm actually providing value already? Why do I want to stay up at night until 2 a.m. making this happen? What is it? What is the thing?
Sometimes it is life and kind of what you prioritize within life, right? So for me it was that. It was actually just, when you're at a stage where you have young children, you can only do so much. I've tried doing a few ventures outside of work, and at the end of the day, if you don't quit your job and dedicate 100% of your time to that venture, it's just not going to work. So it's just, you've got to have that conviction to kind of move across and do something. At the moment, I do more of advisory type stuff. So that's kind of seeing other people live the dream or go through the dream.
And one of the things we ask on this show is really to talk about the failures. And can you give us an example of one of those things that just went to custard and caused you the biggest anxiety ever? Like, what is and this is the thing, inherent to innovation is failure, right? And experimentation. You are going to fail at some stage. So what was yours? What was your thing that really tested you, I'm saying?
I really believe, it's going to sound a bit cliche, but I do believe in the failing quickly, right? So whenever I embark on something, I never like to promise the world. And so I always kind of do things in tiny increments. Right. So I failed a lot. We've had a lot of failure. In fact, over the last 3 years, there's so many. There's so many things that I've spent a lot of time and effort on. Right. And but then luckily had the conviction to just go, actually we'll just stop, because it's just not going anywhere.
How do you resolve that in your brain? Because you're effectively saying, not that you were wrong, you're effectively saying that, look, it's not working, let's just sunk this cost, just put it out there. Does the conversation get easier?
I think it does. Depends on the stakeholders that you have them with. But I think it does get easier as long as everybody is, as long as everybody goes into these things with that mentality. And I do a lot of, with my stakeholder expectation setting, I do a lot of reminding people that when we embarked on this was an experiment. We're trying something out. Because, people can kind of forget, they can get too invested, do you throw good money after bad, all that kind of stuff. So being really honest with yourself the whole time to kind of go, we're experimenting. And I've done this even with, big $1 million kind of things where you kind of go, okay, we're still experimenting. We're actually still experimenting. Yeah.
How do you resolve? Do you focus mostly on internal innovation as well as external, and what's that percentage shift? Because a lot of your role is, I'm assuming,
80-20, 80 external,
right.
20 internal.
Right.
So most of my stuff is actually about external innovation, helping customers and helping them build out innovation programs and changing their own culture and building new products and new solutions, driving brand relevance in the market.
And how do you deal with that initial change management pushback? Do you get it on, right in the chest? Like, do you get it like, oh, this guy,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we get a lot of pushback ourselves, because not only, so we'll go into an organization and not only will we be challenged with the change kind of naysayers, but we'll also have a perception issue a lot of the time as a brand as well.
Like what do they know? They should just do arcade.
It's pretty hard work.
Yeah. I can imagine it's pretty hard work.
It's pretty hard work.
Yeah.
So getting people on your side, and it's really there's been no easy way of doing it, especially in New Zealand, because we're such a well-known brand over here that you're literally you're taking that whole ship and trying to steer it in a particular direction, and you want everybody singing out of the same song sheet, because you might have an interaction with me and you go, oh shit, Datacom does this AI thing, that's pretty cool, and then you'll go and have a chat to somebody else and you'll be like, holy crap, Datacom's so boring. So there is actually a big there's a big difficult kind of navigation thing that we've had to go through over here. It's been a lot. It's a different challenge in other markets. So I've done some work in Australia, in Asia, in Europe as well, in America. For us, it's we build much closer relationships because it's a smaller presence for Datacom over there, and we get customers can be a lot more open to us as a Kiwi company coming in from the outside, but over here in New Zealand, it's super challenging. So dealing.
But is it because of the lack of competition, or is it? Yeah, I mean, it's a country surrounded by water on all sides. And is it the population? Is it the speed? What's the thing that you think that innovation
that hinders innovation over here? I think there are some. A big part of it is actually mindsets and people, right? So when you talked about that change management challenge before, 100% resonates in that. A lot of the time it's actually it's the individuals who look after a particular area of the business who might not want to rock the boat on something that sometimes get in the way. So it's people and their mindsets. That's why you hear about growth mindsets and all that kind of stuff starting to come to the top now, because it's that is the most important thing for people, is actually to be able to accept the fact that there will be ambiguity in the world that we live in. There will be change, and we've got to find ways, methods of adopting.
My last question.
Go for it.
Very personal question, obviously. As a fellow immigrant to New Zealand, when did you become a New Zealander? Like, not officially, and I don't mean officially. When did you, obviously, being in your domain, you are trying to push not just the company forward, but also the country forward, right? Like, and non-immigrants don't see this. The idea of pushing this country forward is very immigrant specific. I don't know. I do it. I was like, no, we got to push this country. When did that?
It's funny, because I've got so many professional immigrant friends, And everybody at some point gets into that mindset of,
this is right.
actually, we fucking care about this country.
That's
like,
right. And I feel, for me, I think it was a point.
Yeah.
When was it a point for you?
There was a point. I think it's probably, so when we came to New Zealand, we always had this mindset of, we're not sure if we're going to stay here, you know, because it's not really home. And even when we became Kiwis, I think even after I graduated from university, it still wasn't 100%, you know, home. I think it's when I had a family, probably, that I went, shit, this is probably the best place to raise my family.
Yeah.
Actually, this is my home. This is my country.
Same here.
I think it was about 10 years ago, actually.
Almost 5 years ago for me.
Oh, there you go.
Same kid area. I'm going, this is home.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it is, yeah, you start to really care about the place.
Yeah.
You start to really appreciate the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So good. Yeah. Husain, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
And I'm sure we'll be hearing more. How do people find you? Like, if they want to find you, like, and what help can you give the market? You know, you're good with your time. If someone wants to get in touch with you, ask you questions and stuff.
I'm always happy to give time. Yes, yeah, because I've had a lot of really good people who have given up their time for me. So I'm always happy to give time. I'm on LinkedIn. I can be contacted. I don't kind of. I'm happy to take requests out of the blue as long as there's somewhat of a description that comes along with it. And yeah, LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram. Yeah,
I will put the links in the notes as well.
Yeah, I kind of use social media in different ways though. So on Instagram, you'll go there, you find a whole bunch of coffee photos because I love coffee.
Right. Okay.
I make coffee.
I want to follow this.
Do you not know that?
I do not.
Oh, here we go. Okay. All right.
I do not know this. I am going to follow your coffee account.
I'm actually.
Is it just pictures of coffee cups?
Hang on. Let's see if your camera thingy actually works. Can you zoom into my?
Okay, let's zoom in. Okay, let's go in. Okay.
Do this.
There you go.
Oh my goodness.
It is coffee photos. It is literally just coffee photos and more coffee photos.
Oh, they're very fancy though.
Yeah, it's like that's really handy.
Let's get
Okay, let's get it. There you go.
There you go.
That's your Instagram. So what is it? Is it art? Is it just latte
It's my
art?
latte art.
Not necessarily the coffee, because are you writing descriptions of how the coffee tasted?
No.
That'd be
It's just
handy.
latte art.
That could be the add-on, right? Like this, the add-on that you could. You heard it here. Husain is going to be on his taste buds.
I was actually Auckland's home barista champion in 2014.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
What?
That's cool.
Hang on.
random, isn't
how
it?
How do you become Auckland's home barista champion?
So funny story. I had a coffee machine, an old coffee machine. I was looking for a new part for it, and I went and searched for the part. And it turns out Rocket, who's the company that makes my coffee machine, has a competition that they run.
That is so
in New
cool.
Zealand
That is so cool.
every single year for the home barista champion. So the rules are you couldn't have worked in a cafe before.
Did you?
I've never worked in a cafe.
But did you practice and stuff? Like, did you have to go like, whoa? How was it the night before? Were you stressed?
You get like, I was totally cool about it. In fact, I went into the competition. There was like 20 guys there, 20 people there, and I was the second guy to go up. So the first guy, I think it was this guy. The guy works at Serato actually, and he comes up to pour his flat white. And the guy was so nervous.
No way.
He was just like.
This is amazing.
So I was looking at him going, oh no.
Right.
So I poured mine, I was okay, fine. But then some of the other people that were there, like they were all holding the cup really closely and just intricately like drawing their latte out. I'm like, man, get out of here. So I left the joint and I went to grab lunch, and then I'm like, my wife went home, like, I'll just see who won.
Yeah,
and I rocked up and they're like, the winner is. I'm
like, hey, here's the interview with the innovation guy and also the home barista champ. Amazing. Things you learn on these things.
That's right.
Thank you, Husain, for being on the
So
show.
if you want a good coffee as well, I'm more than happy to provide.
There you go. It's been said. It's been documented. You can't get away from this. All right. See you guys.
Good.